What's he gonna do with it?
Then immediately he took, so he's working part-time at Walmart. And Bill's like, I'm still just gonna continue with the bills because I don't want you to go get another craft job, you know, because you just went to school to do this. So, he took about a $200 course in, I don't know what to say, being a content writer, just, and, Bill's somebody doing that, content writing, who has done that for 7 years since taking a very similar course that was no longer available. So he's like worked his way through that course and starting to get the sample pieces in place of writing the different pieces and stuff like that. And I know that's so hard to believe. Like I should send you some of his work now because he could not write while he's in your class.
Have him check into, gosh, what was I gonna say? Technical writing. My friend back home, he writes. So when you're eating your cereal in the morning, he's probably done that box. And no English interest whatsoever, but he said it pays pretty well and that's what he chose to do.
Yeah, well, if he has any connections to a job.
There's demand for technical writers.
Yeah. So Nick
Because they
looked
have to be so
into that a little bit.
Okay.
But it was like, they were wanting like, we want you to have a background in medical to be a medical technical writer. We want you to have a background in this to do that. And none of that didn't right then. And he got his minor in technical writing, but then he hadn't started early. So he's got his minor in English. But yeah, he should go pick up some more classes in that.
Because technical writing requires directions and
Yeah,
you forget steps. Everybody does.
I have to go through the whole thing first. How do I turn the front lights off? Do you know which one it is?
Try the top one.
Just try them.
There you go.
What? That one. No, that one.
Hey, quit mugging her.
It's not really.
Right there. This little, that's this little freshman.
No, I don't know. Thanks.
Sorry.
Hope you're doing something.
Yeah, it's done something
Someone said there's a small bald spot growing, so aim for that.
Okay.
There is. Just a little bit.
Up here?
Yep,
Yeah.
just a little bit.
Yeah. Aim for that. It's
Okay.
bright.
Okay.
I'd say your day is coming, but I don't think that'll happen to you.
I hope not.
I hope not either.
That'd be cool.
Guys, just to remind you, we are on live feed, so.
Do you guys steam and cold up there? Is that better?
Do you want to move the table a little bit? I'll help you. Maybe one this way. Where you at?
Still working on dominoes?
No.
You're not? Where are you going? Where are you at? Oh, okay.
And she started hospital for my
Oh, yeah? What do you do there?
med surge.
Oh, yeah? So, well, I'll be okay. Is your stomach's wrong now? Okay, let's check. Well, I still haven't found those gift cards in the house somewhere, so I guess I'll cash it in on somebody else.
My cell phone's not. Just in case anybody else's is not.
Are my judges ready?
Yes, ma'am.
As a kid, we never understand why somebody would randomly become irritated and angry. However, as we get older, we now realize that this is because they are in need of their next fix. Thus, they get irrational and aggressive. Hi, my name is Michaela Collins, and drug use is an increasing problem in the United States. However, if there are better rehabilitation centers and youth prevention programs, then there would be a drastic increase. Drugs are seen in almost every city in the United States. But if we don't try to fix the problem, then the problem isn't going to be fixed. A drug is an illicit substance that can be legal or illegal, and they come with something known as a high. The high can either be euphoria, which is a feeling of happiness where it can cause you like great fear and pain. Addiction is a major problem in the United States. However, a lot of people don't really pay attention to that. They just overlook it because they think that it's the addict's fault. But they can't really control that they are addicted to a drug. How a drug affects you depends on many factors such as the size of the drug, the amount you've taken, your body type, and your health. And there are 3 types of drugs. Stimulants speed up the central nervous system, and those are drugs such as cocaine. LSD is a hallucinogen, and that can cause you to see things that aren't really there or hear things that aren't really there. And depressants slow down the central nervous system, and those are like alcohol and even marijuana. There are many signs of drug use that you can see, such as drowsiness. If you see somebody in the street passing out, then it's most likely you can think that it is because of drugs. Aggressive behavior is also known with a lot of drug addicts. If a person randomly gets aggressive in a grocery store over something little, and a lot of people actually do believe that they could be on drugs, and disheveled appearance. If you see somebody with rotting teeth, they're super frail, and they have sores all over their face, then most likely they are on drugs. Drugs change people in the worst ways. They can make them become somebody completely different. They could have been the sweetest person ever, but then they turned into someone mean, aggressive, and violent. And it affects families because it can ruin the relationship between a child and their parent, and it also can destroy marriages super easily. A lot of people don't want to be friends with drug addicts just because they're always on edge and you never really know what you can do or say around them. without knowing their reaction to it. And it affects society as a whole. With drug use increasing, so does the crime rate. Drug use is a crime to use, possess, manufacture, and distribute drugs, as well as a lot of cities have drug deals that go wrong, and a lot of people can even be murdered over that, and rape is also seen involving drugs. Youth drug abuse is an increasing problem in the United States, and it is fairly more common now than it was ever. Regular users now state that they started doing their drugs in their teenage years, and a lot of those reasonings is because of the pressure on a student. A college student, for instance, has a lot of pressure, so they may take Adderall to increase their cognitive function, which can lead to addiction without even meaning to. And 3 million individuals between the ages of 25 and 13 have stated that they have done at least one drug throughout their life. Public influences are a reason that a child may want to try a drug as well. If they see their favorite celebrity doing drugs, then they may think that's cool and want to try drugs as well. And even parents. If somebody sees their parent doing something, then they're most likely going to think that's okay because they witnessed their parent doing it. Uneducated youth are the most likely to fall victim to drug abuse. I wanted to do something that informed kids on why drugs are bad. And since they took the DARE programs away from the middle schoolers, I decided to create a presentation on kind of like the DARE programs. I gave information on how to get help and how to get somebody help that is on drugs. And I also wanted to do this because of my personal experience. I watched my father and my mother both do drugs, and I wanted to really learn more about what made them act the way they did and how it affected them themselves. So I created this presentation, and it was roughly 20 minutes long. I also had 2 guest speakers. Amanda Wade shared her story and told how she got into drugs, how it changed her life, and how she ended up getting off drugs and how much it really affected her. Officer Moore also went into more detail on how drugs affect people because he's witnessed plenty of people change because of drugs, seeing as he is a police officer. And he also told his own personal stories involving people that were on drugs. So for my product, I highlighted the damages alcohol does, methamphetamines, and cocaine. Methamphetamines can damage your liver and cause liver failure, and that can really put you in the hospital and lead to death. Cocaine causes high blood pressure, and it's most usually seen as just dilated pupils, but it actually is really bad for you because it messes with your heart a lot, and it can put you in the hospital and kill you. And methamphetamines causes you to look really thin, and it kills you from the inside out. A lot of people just think that drugs are okay and that they don't really see what it actually does to the inside of your body. They just see what it does to the outside. So I presented to roughly 20 to 30 kids, and I had quite a few challenges actually doing this. Public speaking, for one. I hate public speaking, so this was a lot harder for me than it should have been, but I wanted to push myself out of my comfort zone just to be prepared for this night. And also, finding appropriate research was complicated. They're 7th graders, and I'm a lot older than they are, so it was hard for me to understand what they would actually understand. And when you look up something about drugs on the internet, it's not going to be school appropriate. So I had to use sites such as health.government to find information that would be appropriate and that would be useful for them. So whenever I found something that I thought was useful, I would put it on the presentation and send it to Dr. Spencer. If she didn't like it, she would send it back to me. One of the problems I had was because I used the word prostitution, and she didn't get it back to me until the day before I presented. So I had no idea if I was even going to get to present up until the day I was presenting. Drug use is a problem, and if we don't do anything to fix it, nothing's going to change. A lot of people blame the victim, blame the drug user, but if we had better rehabilitation centers and youth prevention programs that were actually available, not as expensive, and actually worked, the drug rate would completely decrease. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions?
How did the 7th graders react? How did they?
They actually asked a lot of questions about it. They were really interested on it.
Hopefully in a good way.
Yeah.
did it help you understand the parents a little bit better?
Yeah, it helped me understand like what more they went through than what I did. So I don't know, it just opened a new door.
That's good.
Hit the letter.
Just the letter?
Yeah. I find that out.
Like on?
On the
Oh,
exact
no.
letter. And that's.
You would speed up and then what's yours supposed to speed?
But yeah, they say. But whenever I presented like in actual classes, it was 9 minutes, and then when I presented in like high school classes, it was like 6. So
You can walk louder than that.
Hey, I'm proud.
No, Amber.
I can leave now. You don't have to start.
Nice job. Piece of cake. Tomorrow's the tough day.
Yes, it is.
So
You got the
you
lucky
better
time
tomorrow.
slot here, you're done.
Not bad at all, yourself.
You did it, did you? Sneak in through that. See you guys.
You'll have a good one.
What's wrong?
I did that, and like even when
Oh, you don't have a mouse?
I, no.
Have you got some mice?
Do we have mice?
Yeah, it might help if she had one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We do
Maybe
not
I'm-
have any extra mice.
Okay, I have to click above it, is what
Oh.
the problem is.
Okay.
Oh, I was, okay, that's why I couldn't,
Yeah,
I couldn't get mine to
click the
click
letter.
either.
I was having trouble with that too.
Oh,
Click the letter.
click the letter instead of the circle, okay, that wasn't even.
I was clicking the circle,
Okay, so click the letter. Okay,
yeah.
yeah, now it's just going right away, I was like, what is going on here?
That's how mine was
Are you
too.
okay without a mouse?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
Now that I know to do that.
Okay. Yeah, that's not cool to give you a circle and then you get the letter.
No,
Well, they need to,
I thought it was just
Oh, and my
me.
comment was there, and now my comment's gone, so it's logged out. But if you're listening, you need to click the circle, not the letter.
Look nice, Andy. Thank you. You're welcome.
they didn't tell us.
Is Paisley coming? She said you were a little nervous.
So, and extra pair of support, you let me know, okay?
You too. Almost done. This is it.
See you tomorrow. Have a nice evening.
Too.
So I go to, I picked the same room all night, just for,
They
They all
all
sounded
sounded 6 and then I go back to.
where's my dinner? 6.
Yeah,
I got 6
that's
and
mine.
40, and then I got 3, and then 2 dinner, and then 3 more.
I need a 6 to 6:20. I wasn't
It
thinking
sends
that.
straight at you too, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
wouldn't do it.
you're gonna have to hustle.
Yes. And then I go to one-on-one.
But yeah, in my mind, I was like, one's plenty, and then I was like, yeah, when they went, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know why I did, and I always walk out too.
They
and I did.
said you might want to look into, just make sure.
Yeah.
Oh, well, especially your fancy clip that you need. Yeah, I don't.
I said I'm not keeping my fancy.
I liked that they sent him to us and that we could read them live. Because normally you're sitting here going, I can't pay attention and read.
Yeah.
Are you guys in here again?
Yeah.
I really liked having those.
I like keeping my packet so I can finish showing my students what they have. I'm gonna be back this week, so students
Well, of course, I don't have students to do that with.
but I gotta go through with my packet.
I'm good. I'm good. Oh my gosh. It's been a long day.
Good, how are you?
I'm great.
I'm keeping one.
Can I move these?
I did. That's future.
I'm not a front row
I'm
person.
not in there. But I didn't know. Now, Linda is one of those you.
These two might be a little overboard for my goal.
Just.
What's the number of this?
1993.
You return it on and let you see what he's doing.
1993?
Is the number you put in.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I'll leave it off.
Leave it off? Okay.
Make sure the kiddos stand on the right line when they start.
We can't start in front of the board?
Well, you can, but just stay on that side.
Gotta be difficult, John. So what are you doing? Second. I was gonna say third, but it was so hard. I see Bunker, what's your girlfriend? Yeah. It's been so long. I see her walking to high school and I'm walking back and she just looks at me and I'm like, yeah, she did. She just kind of smiles and then they just keep. Literally, back street, and I'm like, huh, where is that? She's pushing us back.
It's Mr. Competitors.
Mr. I did hear about it. I kind of get everybody. I might be there during class sometimes, so.
Yes, I for the student or for the teacher? Both, depending on. All your friends are coming.
I asked him if Paisley was coming, he's like, I didn't really want them here.
That's what Scotty said too. I was like, really? I'm gonna come watch anyway, so get over here. I'll sit in the back.
All the judges have a packet. And just to remind you guys, we're on live feed, so.
A little less than
Are my judges ready?
Yes.
Okay, I've seen a lot of athletes get injured or hurt during their specific sporting events or practices. One of those being my brother Wyatt. So when I was in 8th grade, Wyatt was a sophomore in high school, and I was in PE and he was in body conditioning. He was warming up along with his class, and I could see that he was not taking the warming up as seriously as the other boys. So later, about 30 minutes into his workout, I saw him come downstairs and tell Coach Schwalm that he needed to go see a trainer. At the time it was Jim Taylor. So he went to Jim and came back and it said that Jim told him he needed to take his warm-ups more seriously. And hi, my name is Landon Crudgington, and training the right way at a young age is very beneficial because it will strengthen you against your opponent, it will prevent injury, and it will lead to a healthy lifestyle. So training consistently, this is very important in working out because you need to complete all of your repetitions. Your coach or your trainer, whoever it is, they will give you the set amount of repetitions that you need to do in your workout in order to build the full amount of muscle that you can. If you're not completing all these repetitions, then you will not build any muscle. And your coach will also, or your trainer or yourself, will give you the right amount of workouts per week, which is 3 to 4 times. You need to space that out over the course of the week because if you're working out, say you work out Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, you're allowing yourself no time for rest, and this is how you break down muscle, and there's no time for you to rebuild that muscle. And finishing training, what I mean by this is when you're not finishing training, this is where you're not doing all your reps and you're just being lazy in the weight room or on the court when you're speed training, and this is not good and it will not help you build muscle. So preventing injury, this is working out or speed training is a great way to prevent injury during your specific athletic practice or event. So you need to use proper technique in the weight room. Do not hold your breath in the weight room because if you're holding your breath, this will raise your blood pressure and this can cause you to faint or pass out. And also for proper technique, you need to, before you put any weight on the bar, you need to learn how to do each lift because if you're putting too much weight on the bar, then you could cause injury in the weight room, and that is not good. So using strong form, like I said, don't hold your breath in the weight room, and before you put weight on, you need to master those certain lifts before you start them. And at a middle school age, this is important that you teach your athletes the correct way to work out before they start putting weight on the bar. So working out also leads to a healthy lifestyle. Getting enough sleep every night, you need to get 8 to 10 hours of sleep in order to rebuild muscle, because if you're not getting enough sleep, then you're not going to build muscle. And taking in protein, so I weigh 310 pounds. I need to divide myself in half, so that would be 155 grams of protein that I need to take in per day in order to build the correct amount of muscle. And putting in the right amount of work, this is all of these things I've talked about, like taking in protein, getting enough sleep, spacing out your workouts per week, 3 to 4 times a week, and that kind of stuff. So strength and endurance. So strength, speed, and endurance, they're all relying on each other. So if you're wanting endurance and speed, you need to be strong. And if you're wanting endurance and strength, you need to be fast. And flexibility coordination, this is where you are warming up before your workouts. And if you're not warming up, you're not stretching those joints or your muscles, and this is not good for working out. So muscle development, this is where you're losing fat in order to build muscle, and increasing tolerance to fatigue. There's a difference between like pinching or stabbing in your body. Fatigue is where you are sore after a workout. And when you first start working out, this will occur for 2 to 3 weeks. And if you're working out consistently, after these 2 to 3 weeks, this fatigue will begin to go away. And that is a good sign that you're building muscle every week. So for my product, I hosted a middle school off-season speed/weight training with these guys, and there was a lot more, but they were not here this day for the pick. So we started in the beginning of January. We would go 2 days a week, and we ended in February. Warming up, that was a big key factor when I was coaching, because I did not want any of them to get injured for their next sport, because that made me feel bad. So right here, this is Jackson Overton. We've got some hip stretches going on. We do all kinds of leg stretches. We do like leg raises, we do A skips, we do B skips. We also do a lot of arm stretches. We do circles, windmills, and we do swimmers. So we teach form running, because if you're not running the correct way, this will decrease your speed. And if you've got the correct running form, you can increase your speed to as fast as you want, as long as you're training the correct way. So this is Isaac, we got James and Gavin. We're teaching him form running. In this drill, we're teaching them to stand on the line and fall forward, and whichever foot comes out first, that is the foot you want to use when you start your races to come off of. In this drill right here, we're teaching them to come forward, bend your hips and slide either to the left or the right, which way we're going, back pedal and stay low, and turn your hips and sprint through the wall or the end of the line. We also do a lot of jumping, because jumping is a huge factor to speed. If you're not jumping, this jumping works your legs a lot. And we got some vertical jumps, we do broad jumps, and the more advanced middle schoolers do higher jumps because they're more advanced. And we do a lot of competition and teamwork. I believe once you build that relationship with your middle school athlete or whoever you're coaching, then they will start to trust you, and they'll trust your process. So right here, we've had them walking up, and they're actually trying to step on each other's feet, and the loser has push-ups or body squats. Right here, this is piggyback rides. This is where we get 5 groups in a line with about 5 to 10 kids, or however many kids we had that day. And the losers, they are counted out like push-ups by the winners. And it's a good time with a lot of competition and teamwork. So some challenges I endured in this experience. This time of year, we had a lot of snow days, and this wiped out around half of my workouts. So I got about 13 hours in out of the 15. And scheduling around sports, I intended to do this right after the middle school football season got over, but we have a lot of middle schoolers that do all sports, which is great. So I had to schedule that to the beginning of January whenever there was a little break between basketball and baseball. And facilities and room, we were intended to go in the weight room more, and do like some balanced speed and lifting. But we did not want to corrupt Coach Wilson's basketball practice or the girls' basketball coach. Some skills I learned a lot of coaching skills. I learned that you need to use your voice when you're coaching middle schoolers, because not all of them are going to listen to you unless you raise your voice and like enforce that you're the coach. And I love building relationships with a lot of the athletes. I know a lot of the middle schoolers, but during this experience I built a lot of relationships and I enjoyed it a lot. So this project was it was a new learning experience. And like I said, my brother did not take his warming up very seriously and he got hurt. So I believe that training the right way at a young age is very beneficial to leading to a healthy lifestyle, prevent injury, and strengthening you against your opponent. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions?
Are you wanting to coach after school? And
That's my second option. I'm actually wanting to go into like law enforcement and stuff like that. Okay.
How many people showed up to your?
The most we had was like 20, but we averaged about 13 to 15 each day. We had good numbers.
was it just 8th grade, or did you do 7th and 8th?
We did 7th and 8th.
7th and 8th.
So you focused on working with middle school kids there, but in your research, did you learn anything about the benefits of weight training for old people?
No, I did not research that. I should have.
My current coach has a degree in that, if you want to. What do you back squat?
390.
With the proper technique. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you go below parallel?
Yeah. My coach actually tells me I can go pretty low for my height, so. It's a compliment.
You did awesome.
Good.
I'm good to go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you guys for taking the time out of your day.
Are you enlisted? No, I enlisted Maddie's help to find her, so I was just making sure she was good.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
You still have about 6
Thank you.
Colleen, you look great. Oh, thank you. Just so you can see
I think I'll look at it. This, I have the pictures too.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so you can go ahead and score these other ones.
Well, I don't need
Okay, so you can score first now.
Okay, sorry, thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Sorry, guys. Everything's good now.
Okay.
Are my judges ready? We all have fears. Whether you're a 5-year-old child or an 80-year-old man or a 17-year-old girl, you're probably afraid of something. A 5-year-old child might fear the monsters under the bed or being in the dark. An 80-year-old man might fear losing mental capabilities or even life, while I might fear heights in public speaking. Fears range in content and intensity, but the importance of overcoming them remains the same. Hi, my name is Karina Krivichenko, and I researched the connection between childhood fears and children's emotional and cognitive development. Children's emotional health, with an emphasis on fear, is a critical concept in parenting that needs to be guided in order to prevent consequences and help children become healthy and functioning adults. Fear has two meanings: forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. When I was younger, I remember having several different kinds of fear that seemed very realistic, like to most children. So I wanted to examine how fears develop and what causes them. For my research and product, I wanted to combine the things that I love most: medical and psychological research and children. I was able to examine the psychological side of fear in children and sewed 20 medical dolls to donate to the Mercy's Children's Hospital in Springfield. As children undergo emotional and cognitive changes related to their environment, fears arise because of their limited knowledge of the world. Children actively learn through gathering, sorting, and processing information, which forms their cognitive worlds. The Swiss psychologist Jean Piaget suggested the 4 different stages of development that children undergo. The first stage in his theory was the sensory motor stage, in which children are from birth to the age of 2. In that stage, children begin interacting with their environment, and fears related to tangible and immediate events can arise, such as of reactions to pain, loud noises, bright lights, or sudden movements. Fears of separation from their loved ones, as well as fear of strangers, can arise. The second stage of development is the preoperational stage, in which children are from the age of 2 to the age of 7. In that stage, children begin representing objects mentally in their head, and fears of transformations can arise. Children have those fears because they still do not grasp the idea that despite surface changes, people and objects remain the same. They may also fear inanimate objects in that stage, such as a vacuum cleaner, bathtub, or toilet. They might think that the vacuum cleaner can suck them up with all the noise it's making, and the bathtub and toilet can suck them in with the flushing waters. During that stage, children also have a very active fantasy, which contributes to imaginary fears, such as of ghosts, monsters, and bad dreams. Children have a very active fantasy, which creates a very thin line between what is real and what is not, and that causes those kinds of fear. Children also continue to fear separation. The third stage of development is the concrete operational stage, in which children are from the age of 7 to 11. In that stage, children begin using logical and operational reasoning. Children continue to fear monsters, ghosts, and bad dreams, and their fears also begin shifting to more realistic things because they begin understanding their environment a little better, such as of natural disasters or injuries. School-related fears can also arise, as well as fears of rejection from their loved ones. The last stage of development is the formal operational stage, in which children are from the age 12 and up. Children begin thinking about their future in more concrete terms in that stage, and they can still continue to fear rejection and still have school-related fears. They start to deeply care about the opinions of others, and that contributes to some possible fears. They also still fear natural disasters, war, or being kidnapped. As children go through all the different stages of development, fears arise because of their view of the environment. Children's reflection of understanding, or therefore lack of understanding, is what contributes to those fears. Children's immaturity and vulnerability are the underlying factors of fear in fear's development. There are several different types of fear. Fear can be a normal response whenever it is proportionate to the perceived threat, and it can have a self-motivating and positive effect whenever a child approaches a situation with increased awareness. Fear can also be negative and based on traumatic experiences, and that type of fear is harder to find coping mechanisms for. Yet fear can also be imaginary and not tied to any present danger. One possible theory of those kinds of fear is that they are survival instincts from history. Although fear is considered to be transitory in nature, it is very important for parents to help children overcome those fears. Parents can help children find coping mechanisms to overcome those fears, and the coping mechanisms will empower the children and give them a sense of control over their life events. Some possible ways a parent can help is encourage their children to express fear through words or pictures. Dramatic play is a very big concept in parenting and childhood development, and that can be used to help children find coping mechanisms. It is also important to find alternating ways to deal with stress and fear, which will allow a child to overcome some of the possible fears. More concrete ways to help is playing peekaboo with a baby. It shows the child that even though there was a surface change, the person still remains the same. One possible way to help children overcome separation fears, a parent can leave a room for short periods of time to show a child that separation is indeed temporary. It is also very important for a parent to always say goodbye before leaving. Even though it might be easier to just sneak away whenever a child is not watching, it leaves the child with a sense of shock after they realize that their parent is gone. As children begin understanding their environment a little better, they still do not understand everything that goes on in it. That is why it is very important for parents to give their children plenty of information. For example, a parent can say that even though the bathtub and toilet has the water draining out, a child cannot fit through there, or other possible realistic ways a parent can explain. Since play is very important, it is very important for a parent to encourage a child to use play to explore their fear in safety. Since children have a lot of different fears in hospitals, I wanted my project to accommodate those children. That is why I sewed 20 medical dolls to donate to the Mercy Hospital. Medical play dolls have a lot of different benefits. It gives a child an opportunity to manipulate and create situations that they can safely control. It also allows the doctor to show all the procedures that will be done on the child on the doll. The increased understanding of the procedure will reduce the fears in the child. For example, before inserting an IV, drawing blood, or making stitches, all those procedures can be shown on the doll. The increased understanding will reduce the fears, and the procedures can be done in a smoother manner. First, I found several different types of designs online, so a child can choose the doll that they like most or the one that looks most similar to them. I had to use all new materials, yarn, thread, and fabric because they will be donated to the hospital. First, I found several different types of designs. I made some bigger, some smaller, and some medium-sized ones. I cut them out and put them on fabric. I cut the fabric out and sewed the pieces together. I used stuffing to stuff the pieces, and then I embroidered the eyes out. I used my aunt's embroidery machine to embroider the eyes out. Then I watched a lot of YouTube videos to figure out how to make the hair out of the yarn. Lastly, I made the hospital gowns. I made some buttons in the back, made some with strings, and made some just plain in the back to make the dolls truly for hospital use. Throughout my project, I experienced several challenges. First, I did not have any prior knowledge of sewing, which itself posed a challenge. I decided to make 20 dolls, which was a big number for somebody who does not know how to sew. Each doll took me longer to make, and it was much harder than I thought. But with each doll, I could see major improvements in my quality of work, stitching, and neatness. I also faced a challenge with finding the patterns for the eyes. I first tried to do it freehandingly, but the results made the dolls look really creepy. So I just found I had to go to the sewing store in Springfield and find the different patterns for them. They didn't have a wide variety of them, so I had to kind of make my dolls all look different with the hair types and the hair colors. Fear is a normal response that children experience throughout their development, and it is very important for parents to help children find coping mechanisms that can be used to overcome those fears and that can be used in other life situations. No matter if you're a 5-year-old child or an 80-year-old man or 17-year-old girl, coping mechanisms help us lead a healthy life. The coping mechanisms that we learn as children remain with us throughout our whole lives and help us lead a healthy and successful life. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions? Yes.
Did you talk to any of the hospital personnel personally that had dealt with using those dolls before?
Not hospital personnel, but Miss Dillon in the school, she actually had one when she was a little kid. And she had, like, she removed her own, not her own, but the doll's stitches. When the doctors were taking out the stitches from her, she removed the doll's stitches, and she still has the doll that they gave her.
So will the hospitals give the dolls to the kids? Like,
Yes.
show them what they're doing, and they'll give them to the kids?
Yes, after the kids get to keep them after leaving the hospital.
Could you show us like one of your earlier dolls and then one of your
Yeah,
later dolls,
you can
so we can
definitely
see the
see.
difference in your technique?
First of all, this one, the eyes, that didn't work. You have to switch the thread, in the embroidery machine, and it wouldn't do it for some reason. So these eyes, you can see that they're messed up. And first I tried to make ears for them, but that didn't work at all. So I just got rid of the ears on the later ones, and you can see like little stitching here that shouldn't be here, but it improved on the other dolls.
Okay.
Any more?
You think you'll ever sew anything else?
Yeah, I like sewing,
Okay.
so I might.
Are you planning on being a pediatric doctor or
Yes,
nurse?
that's one of
doctor?
my, I want to work with children and I want to enter medical field, so something that has to do with that. Any more? Thank you.
Yes, you might.
I think that's probably one of my favorite senior projects I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's good.
Actually, you do another room right now. No, I'm going to dinner now. Oh, dinner, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I just scheduled mine. How are you? Same room, so I didn't have to think about where I was going. Okay, there's that, don't forget to stand on top of this one. Hey, Ruby. Do you want these lights? Yeah, before you start. Do you want these lights on? Okay.
So I have my meals before that.
Yes.
So you do.
Yeah, before you start, and I'll let you know.
Just a minute. You look amazing. Oh, great. Yeah, oh gosh. Thank you. Nice, thank you. It was like, yeah. Oh.
Your hair looks so pretty.
Oh, thank you, thank
So
you.
pretty.
Usually I blow dry it, it kind of does this nice little thing. That
Well,
didn't
yeah,
happen today.
So pretty.
Thank you.
Go talk with my family for that 1 minute? Can I go talk with my family for that 1 minute? Or
Yeah, are they just right out here? Oh, right there. That's fine. Yeah.
are my judges ready? Yes. The summer before my junior year was full of a lot of challenges, one of which was finding something to take up my time my junior year, because I wanted a different elective to take up my time. A family friend of mine thought that the skill of welding was important enough that I should learn it, and even gave me a welder. And this solidified my love for welding and why I want it as a career and a hobby. Hi, my name is Nolan Smith, and today we will be going over why everyone should know how to weld and how to be safe while doing it. Safety is a very important thing in the welding field because you have to wear the personal protective equipment to properly be safe. And personal protective equipment includes a face shield that has a darkened lens on it called a welding hood, welding gloves, a fire-resistant jacket, and pants that are also made of a non-flammable cloth. There are many hazards related to welding, many of which could ruin your life if handled improperly. These include, but are not limited to, electric shock, burns, fires, stuff of that nature, and there's more, but them are several of the main ones that I will go over. The reason for safety is because you have a family at home who you want to go home to after every day and take care of, and you don't want to leave them in a spot where they're left to fend for themselves while you are either in the hospital or dead. Start things off, shielded metal arc welding, or stick welding, is considered the second hardest to learn, mainly due to electrode properties, because each one has different properties and deposits the puddle in a different way. The cool thing about stick welding, though, is that it can be done anywhere. Gas metal arc welding is environment sensitive, meaning that it can't be done outside very well. It can, but at that point, you're wasting gas. You're wasting shielding gas. It needs to come down a little bit. It is, however, considered the second easiest to learn, although it is the easiest to learn, although it is usually the second that people actually learn, mainly due to the fact that it prevents them from losing interest in welding because they move on from a slightly harder process to a slightly easier process, and they think that it's easier. So they think, hey, I might stick through this and learn something out of this. Then we get into gas tungsten arc welding, or TIG, and the pieces of steel, or whatever you're welding, have to be so clean while you're TIG welding to get a good bead that it's almost hard to get them that clean. It is considered the hardest to learn, and that's due to many things: technique, how clean the metal is, and as well as the makeup of the metal and what type of tungsten you use. It is also very environment sensitive because this one can't hardly be done outside even if you increase the gas flow until you're wasting it. There are many welding joint types, such as a butt joint, T-joint, lap joint, or bevel joint. A butt joint is where two pieces of metal are actually butted up against each other, hence the name butt joint. A T-joint, they form either half or a whole T, which you weld on each side so that they fit together to form a T. A lap joint is where the pieces of metal actually overlap each other, and you weld them so they stay overlapping. In a bevel joint, the most common is a V-groove, where there's just a straight bevel on each side and it forms a V. Is a joint where there's a space between them. It's very closely related to a butt joint, although with a bevel joint, there's actually space that you have to fill with welding bead to get full penetration of your weld bead. Bevels can come in many shapes and sizes, although, like I said, the most common is just a V. The reason I chose my product is because I enjoy welding, because you never stop learning when you weld. You will always be learning. It is a very good career that I am very interested in, and even a good hobby that I find fun. My product was a 55-gallon drum turned into a grill. This will make family events better because now we aren't just limited to the stove or a smaller grill, and we can cook more food and for more people on this grill than one that we've had before. I did, however, face some challenges, such as burning through the steel. My mentor helped me through this because the reason I was burning through the steel, it turns out, was because the square tubing was so thin that anytime I would start welding, it would just get hot enough that it would just put a hole right through it. And I then had to go back and fill those holes in. My mentor told me to lay it over on its side to where I was welding it vertically, to where whenever I would burn through, the weld puddle would actually drip down and fill the holes for me instead of me having to go back and refill them myself. Another challenge I had was cutting the steel to the correct length and correct angle, because at the welding shop where I done my project, if you haven't used a piece of machinery, the instructor actually has to sit down with you and teach you step by step how to use it, and then watch you while you use it for the first time. And this can take some time to do, although that's not the biggest thing. It's harder to just get used to. It's hard to get used to your instructor looking at you while using a piece of machinery and to do it correctly. In conclusion, I think everyone should know how to weld at least a little bit, either for a job, for a hobby, or to help people. Because if you think about it, if you have a job that you enjoy, you'll never work a day in your life, and you'll be doing your hobby as a way to get paid, and you could give people better deals than what they may get at other welding shops where they could charge an arm and a leg for something you would charge $20 for. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions?
So, what are you thinking about for your next welding project?
I am actually planning on going to GoCat. It is a welding school run by MSU West Plains. And then I plan on looking for a job, which with that kind of experience shouldn't actually be very hard to find. Anyone else?
What's your favorite type of weld?
My favorite type of welding is TIG welding, just because it's a challenge for me and I enjoy challenging things.
Have you used the grill yet?
I have not. As soon as the rain lets up, I plan on using it, but the rain has not let up to allow me to do it yet.
So did you follow a plan to make this, or did you just kind of like figure it out on your own as you went along?
My mentor actually helped me draw out a plan
Okay.
and fully fabricate it myself.
Okay, good.
About how long did it take you to complete?
Most of it was done within a few weeks' time. And then what was left was to put the grill in and put the stack on. And then I was pretty much done in a few weeks, give or take. Any more?
Do you have any, like you say you like it for a hobby,
Right.
what's some other things you would like to do with it as a hobby, not as your job related, but like as a hobby? Is there any other projects that you would think you'd like to work on, or maybe just do things for other people, or what you're thinking?
For me, the hobby aspect is also doing it for a job. Like,
Okay. So you don't have any
occasionally I'll
projects
build
in mind?
something for myself.
Yeah.
But I've mostly helped other people to weld things that they need welded.
Anyone else?
I need to become a smaller boy.
Oh, well, can you say that?
Yeah.
As the years add on, so do the pounds.
Easier said than done.
Okay. Hey, I gave him a dinner block. Back in here. I think that means I get to go eat more dessert.
Doesn't start yet.
Oh, it starts 7?
6:45.
Okay. I didn't watch it, unless a couple of things happened here.
Well, they got.
Did they get swept by the
No,
fence?
they came back and won, but they had a fight in the match yesterday.
Well, they almost had a fight.
No, they.
Was it over getting hit by a fish again?
Yeah, they threw up in the end to Arenado and he was not having it.
Yeah. Well, they almost nailed him the other day, too.
But it was definitely kind of.
Yeah, it was right.
It probably needed to happen.
Yeah.
He wasn't very happy, he was up by his head.
Right, yeah. They could have plunked him in the butt.
Exactly.
What fun is that?
Yeah.
That's right.
I printed it all off. Yeah,
Oh,
thank
okay,
you.
perfect. You're ahead of the game.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got like 6 minutes on. Huh?
I just started in time.
No, we've still got like 6 more minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll just check.
You're good, just.
was gonna go work on it.
Oh, Coach Riley.
Are my judges ready?
Yes.
In the book Broken Hearts Healing, Young Poets Speak Out on Divorce, the author Chloe states that to me, divorce is filled with pain and agony, but mostly sadness. Divorce affects kids in many different ways, with it being painful to watch their parents fight and treat each other with hatred. Many kids are sad and depressed knowing things will never be normal again. Hi, my name is Kaylee Green, and split families have an impact on kids' academics, their mentalities, and relationships with each other, which causes them to have short-term or long-term effects in the end. When I myself has been through divorce with my parents, this has led me to choose my research because I wanted to show parents how divorce affects their kids' mentality and the effects it has on their children short-term and long-term. I also wanted to show parents how they can help their kids get through divorce if that path ever came down to it. When children are trying to adjust to their parents' divorce due to emotional issues, there is a difficulty in meeting the academics and social expectation requirements the school has set. Most teens have a lack of interest in schoolwork when due to trying to balance their studies, a part-time job, their social life, and their parents fighting on top of everything else. According to a licensed master social worker, there are many reasons why grades would decline. Struggling with mental health, trouble concentrating, emotional dysregulation, and not getting help from their parents at home will cause grades to decline. A challenge kids may face is resiliency. Resiliency is the ability children have to adapt to the new circumstances of stress. This means how fast a child can bounce back from divorce without facing the long-term challenges the child may face. If a child just so happens to not bounce back from divorce, they can face a challenge of having future relationships where they question the love and commitment a marriage and a family needs. Most children, when they're at home, they lash out with aggression, which causes their depression and anxiety to worsen. Most parents have reported their children stealing and fighting, breaking things during an anger outburst, and telling more lies. When parents start to date and start to have a lack of control of their parenting, this can lead children into premature sexual activity. Keeping siblings together helps with their developmental achievements. Siblings are there for each other through their emotional pain, source of love, and confidants. When children get separated, this often impairs their child development. There are many short-term and long-term effects children may face, and a short-term effect that children can face is resiliency, which can impair their school performance. Most boys go through some short-term effects of depression, and most girls relate to their mother's depression. This can often impair them to have a healthy, long-lasting relationship of their own. This led me to the decision of my product because I wanted to see families grow bonds together whether they're intact, blended, or separated. Having family bonds with their children can help calm kids with their emotions and help them realize that everything will be alright with themselves and their families. My product was a winter festival for the elementary grades, kindergarten through 2nd grade. I had about 12 activities altogether, and most of them here are pictured, including cornhole, pictures to Santa, pin the nose on your reindeer, a selfie booth, musical chairs, and my favorite one where we had the kids do Christmas cards and we donated to the elderly at the nursing home. My event started at 5:30. I already had a group of people waiting outside, waiting to come in. At 6 o'clock, people were still filing in, and that is when Santa Claus arrived. And may I add, thank you to Mr. Hall, who was helped be Santa Claus and put many smiles and laughter on children's faces. I had one goal I wanted to earn throughout this project, and that was to see kids have bond with their families through that night. And I believe I met that goal. I had well over 150 people show up. And at 7:30, my event ended and we were still cleaning up at 9 o'clock. I started my event in November by ordering cookies, making the flyers, reserving the cafeteria, and ordering materials and crafts for the activities that the students can do. In November, I worked every single day after school and after work on my project, and December 3rd was my final project day. I faced many challenges throughout my project, and one challenge I faced was getting volunteers. I created a sign-up sheet that I put it on the FFA bulletin board where students can sign up, and if they volunteer to do something, they can earn points that goes to activities and other trips they can attend. But after a week of it hanging there, nobody signed up, so I took a long shot and I had my mentor email all the elementary teachers where they can use that for tips at hours that can help them earn extra money throughout the month. Luckily, I was able to get enough teachers to help me. Another challenge I faced was not having enough of everything. On November 1st, I sent out a flyer where parents can fill out how many kids are attending this event, and on November 12th, that's when the flyers were due. About a week and a half after the flyers were due, I was still getting them in, so every time I got a new flyer in, I had to adjust the counts to my activities to the head count I was getting with the children. Split families have a major impact on kids' academics, their mentality, and their relationships with each other, which causes them to have short-term or long-term effects in the end. Divorce affects many kids through their emotions and the effects it has on their children short-term and long-term. Many kids are sad and depressed knowing things will never be normal again. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions? Yes.
Will you use, what are you gonna do after school? Will you be using any information that you learned for your future job, or?
I want to be an early education teacher, so I'm hoping with the research that I learned in the product that I did that can help me with my understanding the children better and the living situations they come from.
It's warmer in here, thank goodness.
So are these full marathons you're doing?
I am training right now for a full. And, after that, I think it'll just be back to halves.
Hey, are those yours behind me?
Yes, I'm done, please.
Okay. Thank you. This is on your flip phone. Let's look at these movies first. I'm gonna jump them. Here's Nolan's.
Okay, thank you.
How you been?
I have been doing well. Yeah.
So what have you been doing besides being a trainer?
Yeah, I'm running. I was just saying, I'm training for a full marathon and like, it just takes up so much time. Like, I'm gonna run Saturday and it's gonna take the whole day. You know, because I'm running.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Where's your marathon?
it's in Missoula, Montana. And I know some other people that are running there, and that's why I chose that one. Excuse me. And I just looked at prices online the other day for a hotel, or I'm sharing a hotel room, and of course they jacked up the prices because,
Yeah.
you know, it's a big event, and they know that they're gonna be full booked up. Well, they've done the same thing with the airline tickets. It's gonna cost $1,000 round trip to fly to Missoula. I mean, and I'm doing it on two high demand days anyway, Friday and Monday, but,
Yeah.
so I think the next thing I'm gonna do is try to fly in, I'm gonna investigate flying in somewhere that will cost less money and renting a car to Missoula. You know, maybe spend a little extra time traveling, but,
Yeah, it saves money.
yeah. I thought about just driving and camping, but it would take me an extra week. And I'd have fun, but, you know, I could be working that extra week, so.
Oh, goodness.
Thank you.
guys do this presentation.
Yeah.
No, totally not.
It makes me feel good. Cause after today, I don't feel like a lot of people like me.
Why, what'd you do today?
We had a bunch of drama and having to tell kids how many times have I been doing this year?
Okay, well,
Never
if you're ready.
Never have to.
Right.
We got good kids. We've always had good kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Don't know this guy at all. I think I was at dropped out of school. I was sitting on piece all day.
Oh, and this is a bad time to bring this up, but I have dinner next, so I'm gonna need you to get like.
Yeah.
Hey, well, no,
I'll just,
he's been in there for 2 hours, because I've been eating with him.
I'm just telling you. That's my official lunch coming.
I'll just talk.
Expecting.
He's waiting for dessert.
I'll just talk as fast as possible and only do the important slides.
And try to be as vague and insecure like your father.
I think your dad and I are competing to see who eats the most dinners.
Yeah, I've only seen him like once or twice. He's always in cafeteria.
I use a sneaking mouse on me, that's what it is.
Oh. My judges ready?
No.
The news and media likes to shed light on the mistakes that police officers have made. What if there were no mistakes that police officers had made because they had the proper training they needed to do their job to the best of their abilities? Hello, my name is Owen Moore, and I believe that in order for police officers to have proper training, their budget, response times, type of training, and amount of training must be properly assessed and increased. Police are in charge of keeping this country safe, so what could be more important than police training? I chose police training because my father is a police officer. Although I don't have much of an interest in becoming a police officer, I do find the topic very interesting and important. Before a police officer is allowed to start training and join the academy, there's certain requirements that must first be met. Some of those requirements include education. That education usually consists of a high school diploma, but more and more agencies are requiring some sort of college completion, usually in criminal justice or social work. It's also a minimum fitness requirement. They must be a citizen. There's a minimum age requirement of 21, and they must have a valid driver's license. Just as there's certain things that are required, there's also some things that can be disqualifiers. Some of those disqualifications include criminal history, a lack of a driver's license, felony or perjury, dishonesty on any legal applications, especially during the hiring process, domestic violence, drug use, poor credit, gang affiliation. Although you can be in a gang in the past, my father had friends that were former gang members, but you can't be currently in a gang. Also, there's certain medical conditions that can prohibit someone from joining. Once they move on to training, they'll train in physical skills. Police are making complex and difficult decisions, often in a split second. That could be life or death, and which goes hand in hand with use of force training. They work on a total average of 120 hours of use of force training. They also train in de-escalation, and officer safety training is very important. Police will also train with involving with the mentally ill. They have a lot of frequent interactions with the mentally ill. They're very prevalent in society. It's the most common type of illness, it's even more common than cancer. And although they deal with a lot of the mentally ill, they have repeated interactions with the same people. So though it's very frequent, it's a lot of the times the same people that they're dealing with. There are some flaws in the training of police officers. The use of force training in the academy, there isn't enough of that. If you look at something like high school sports team or Mighty Mites or something like that, they'll be training or practicing 10 times more than the amount of training that they'll get in a police officer will get in use of force. And this is dealing with not practicing a sport, but dealing with life or death. It's a lot more important. Also, critical thinking skills, like I mentioned earlier. They're making complex and difficult decisions, often within a split second. It could be life or death. And there just isn't enough emphasis on how they should be processing and thinking this stuff. It's more of just training the physical skills. Also, the training there must be follow-up training. A lot of the times once they're done with the academy, we'll just leave it at that. But it's important to keep continued training to both refresh their memory and get better, because you can never have enough training. This leads me to my product, because this goes perfectly with police training, because I created a way to help train the police officers in our local community. I chose this because I knew I wanted to make something for my senior project, and this would be a perfect way to help train in use of force. Now, the first step of making my product was the design. This was the hardest part for me because I'm not good with computers. It was kind of a headache and it took a lot of trial and error. It doesn't look like much, but it was a challenge for me, and I'm proud of it. Next step was gathering the material. This would have been the hardest part of my senior project, but because I would have had to purchase this metal from an outside source. But luckily I was able to purchase some from the ag building for around $165, and was able to cut it. And for cutting the material, here you can see the plasma cutter as it is cutting it, and this is after the cut is complete. This was the easiest step of making my product, because the plasma cutter just did it for me, because I was able to use it from the ag department. The next step was the finishing touches, which included painting it and this hinge mechanism, which I can show you here. The hinge mechanism allows for whenever it's shot, this will swing to the other side to where it can be shot again. This way you never have to go down range and reset it. It'll always reset it for you once you shoot it. There were some challenges I faced. I did have to fix the plasma cutter. At the start of making my product, the plasma cutter wasn't operational. I had to spread some paint thinner on it and this black tar to seal up some of the cracks. Also, that hinge mechanism that I just shown you, we made that off the top of our heads. We weren't going off of any plans or directions. We just bought some stuff at Wagner's and welded it on. My product benefits the local community because it will be used to train the police officers in Willow and maybe other neighboring police agencies. Here's my father testing the target out after he just set it up, and here's him after he had shot it some. For police training to change for the better, it must start with one individual agency and spread through influence. I would like for our hometown to be that first agency to start putting more efforts into police training. And in order for police for their training to change, their budget, response times, type of training, and amount of training must be properly assessed and increased. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions? Yes.
So how did you come up with the idea for the hinge to get it to flip from left to right?
Well, I don't remember. So they make some targets at the ag building, and they have a similar mechanism that we actually tried, but it didn't work for some reason. It just, whenever we would try to move it, it would just kind of snag and stuff. So that was whenever we ended up going to Wagner's and just buying some things and testing it out. It works fine now.
And so what is the circle in the chest? Just
Yeah, it's dual purpose. You can train for like a hostage situation, where you can just practice shooting this, which this will also flip out, where it can be shot again.
so the red one would be the hostage taker, and they've got the
Yeah.
the black silhouette is the hostage that they're holding in front.
Are they made of the same material, the hostage and the hostage taker and all that?
Yeah.
That seems really thick. Does it ricochet?
No. When it hits, it like disperses in every direction. It doesn't come back to you.
Okay. Now, because I don't like your father, Is there
Who
one,
does?
was there one shot in its neck? Did I see a shot in its neck?
This?
Yeah,
No, this is to mount it on a T-post.
because I wanted to get on your dad about that one
Yeah.
shot that got away.
Also, this is dual purpose. So we weren't missing when we were shooting this.
That was my
You
next
know,
question.
we meant to shoot that.
Have you gotten any interest from Willow Springs Police Department or anybody else in using this, or have you offered it up yet?
No, well, they train at our house, which is pretty convenient. So it'll be at our house, and then whenever they train or do testing, they'll go out there and use it.
So what
I'm really excited to see what they have to say about it.
So what is your interest if it's not police training? What do you see yourself in 10 years?
That's a good question. That wasn't with my research, but I'm not sure.
It's okay.
I'm still,
Yeah, it's fine.
Exploring
No.
options.
yeah, exploring options.
I'm 58. I'm thinking about doing something pretty new in my life.
Yeah. I forgot to mention this is made out of AR 500 steel. It's 1/2 inch thick.
Oh, wow.
It can stop up to a 308.
Was
Pretty
it
easily.
heavy? It looked like it was heavy.
Yeah, it was really
looked
heavy. Yeah.
Are there anything like that in training today? Is there anything like that device today?
Yeah, there's some other hostage targets. I have never seen one like this. As far as I can tell, this is pretty much one of a kind.
Really?
Yeah, with how he came up with it. So I'm pretty proud of that.
Are you gonna patent it?
Um,
That's your career.
Maybe. We'll see.
Go on Shark Tank. There you go.
Shark Tank. Maybe you'll see me on Shark Tank in a few years.
Yeah.
Make sure the silhouette of the hostage is Mr. Wonderful.
Give Miss Maeve some love, because this is her idea for you to go to Shark Tank.
Okay. Yeah. I'll give her a shout out.
Yeah, give her a shout out.
Typically, how long does it take to become a law enforcement officer?
I believe it's 6 months typically. 6 months. It's a good question for my dad.
Did you tell him he couldn't come today?
Yes.
You're like, I hear they're streaming that.
I'm really thankful this is a small audience. I saw some of the other classes and they're packed. So.
Are you nervous?
A little bit. I was playing tennis yesterday a lot. I'm really sunburned. I mean, I'm nervous, but
He's
I'm
not blushing.
Yeah, this isn't red for me being nervous.
Did you win?
No. Got second.
Yeah,
Second.
I've seen
Double.
that. That's really good.
You won most of it, you just didn't win that last. All right, well, good job.
Is your dad affiliated with any games that I need to know about? He's so soft.
No,
That just-
absolutely not.
You did awesome.
Great job, Ellen.
So, what are you teaching here now?
World history, economics, and system.
Okay.
I love it.
Oh, so you was taking like Cottonwood's class?
Yeah.
Or, okay.
Yeah.
Did you come in right after her or?
No,
someone in
right
between?
after. No.
Yeah, so
She
you
went-
totally waited until I left before you came down. I am.
I was
We
told.
could not handle you both
I
in
was
the
told,
building.
yeah. I was told I couldn't. I was told I couldn't come until you left.
Do you remember when, I found out that she was pregnant and went down to
You can
the
stick with that.
in front of the office and I said, hey, you look good. I get bigger now. Hey. I've been asking about you. Oh, I heard that you had a sick kid. I didn't know if I'd see you.
I do, he has a respiratory infection. It's
Oh.
not the flu, so
Yeah.
take that as a win.
win.
Yes, that too. Your hair looks beautiful. It's like
Thank
long and
you.
flowing.
Yeah. It's good to be ponytail season. I'm just about there.
It is nice to be able to get it in a ponytail.
Yes. So what grade is Miles in?
He's going into 4th.
Holy cow. Aw. Anyway, but I was telling someone the other day, like, my question was, and I'm like,
No.
but hey, how are you? But, back in the day.
You don't.
And I was like, this was the same guy, and I told him about the toga. What are you doing? Going on back and connect, we're probably next.
I got so sunburned yesterday or the day before, I probably won't be able to get back there.
Oh, you're a good job. I just want to remind us that this is being live streamed, and we need to keep our mouth shut.
Yeah. Mrs. Smith reminded me.
Uh-huh.
No, no. I got dinner.
Yeah, I got you.
Hello, Nancy.
What are you doing?
What am I doing? Sitting here listening to you.
I heard only families on.
You heard wrong. Kind of hurt what I'm feeling. You don't think we're family.
Whoa!
No, I wanted less people in my classroom.
Doesn't think I'm family.
This is like the biggest classroom I see so far.
My children don't think I'm family.
I had one open seat in mine, and I was in Mr. Spencer's.
Oh.
I had one open seat.
Well, I feel bad for
But technically, I didn't have any open seats because I had one open seat. But, kind of that bad. He doesn't really trust anymore.
No. He did not. You know, he wrote every once in a while. It stinks, man. You don't get to come the last day, you miss out on ice cream.
I'm gonna be there on the last day.
Just at bus time.
You'll be out there waiting for your brothers
Yeah.
and sisters to get
I'm gonna drive to school on my car, make you drive me to
Oh, you get ice
the
cream.
stop and back to school.
Just for ice cream.
Yeah. Free ice cream.
Get ice cream, though. That's when you get off the bus, though.
So you get off and your ice cream and get back on.
No. You don't get back on. Oh, you're one of the kids on the bus.
Yeah.
You know that. Yeah, you know that. Kids don't eat on my bus, do they, Ken? Or at least they're not supposed to. That's all do you know.
He was telling me that I'm
I
giving
didn't think
this,
they ate in the library either.
the students.
This morning, and I found a wrapper right after they all left the room.
Well, they all eat on there, they eat no doubt, but they better not let me touch it.
And you never caught me. Someone snitched on me.
Working on that too.
Word signs on your trifold.
It's always
Thanks.
like,
I got a lot of compliments on that.
How did you burn that so precisely?
Oh, I'm just not good. No, I use the laser burner and,
I was gonna
yeah.
say, there's
Mr.
no way that
Depp-
would woodwork by hand.
Yeah. No, there is a way, but not, yeah, I still got wood burning.
Are your letters wood too?
Yeah, and I laser.
You'll get Alfred.
As he runs up, you okay with
Yeah. Are my judges ready? The biggest problem that the construction industry faces is the lack of skilled workers. Did you know that the construction industry will need to attract nearly 650,000 additional workers on top of the normal pace of hiring in the year 2022 to meet the demands for labor, according to the model developed by Associated Builders and Contractors. Hi, my name is Akeem Brovchikov, and I believe that if more people go to trade school instead of college, then there would be more skilled workers. Trade school offers skill-based learning with solid job opportunities and significantly less debt than a college degree. And that's why I believe trade school should be as highly regarded as college. If you're a person like me and you prefer hands-on work, then that's what trade school offers. It offers a lot of hands-on work and you become a more skilled worker. But college offers more of a wider range of options and also boosts extracurriculars. Our school offers another class to go to for half a day. It's kind of like a trade school called Votech, and I go there for carpentry class. Trade school is good for fields like construction, welding, bricklaying, and more. Contractors face difficulty in hiring laborers needed for construction jobs today. In 2017, the South Bay Construction found that only 3% of people aged 18 through 25 wanted to work in construction. Contractors feel that society places too much emphasis on college level management and not enough on well-structured skilled trades development for construction careers. So how can we help students to go to trade school and become more skilled workers? We have to start by a younger age and by schools. Our school already has a class for this, woodshop class, but a lot of other schools don't have a woodshop class like we do. In 2017, it showed that 31% of schools throughout the United States have a woodshop class. And I would like to encourage other schools to get a woodshop class, like us. Like Ferguson wrote in Careers in Focus, an education for a career as carpenter is not mandatory, but most contractors and developers prefer applicants with a diploma or GED. But carpentry does involve a lot on-the-job training, and also it involves a great deal of mathematics and science. That's why, therefore, students should go to trade school to become more of a skilled worker when they want to go into a field such as carpentry or welding or anything in that sort of field. With people that have no future plans, it is best for them to go to college, in my opinion, because they find new friends and new opportunities that best fit them. Or if you want to do something in particular, then it's good for them to go to college as well. But if you're a person that wants to do carpentry or welding throughout your life and you really like doing it, then it's best for you to go to a trade school to become more skilled at it. So this is my product. It's a TV stand, and I'm gonna tell you the steps I had to take in order to build it. So I had to first get the boards, plane them, joiner them, and finally I could have glued them together. After the glue dried, I went again and planed them a second time so it would look really nice. And started by putting these 4 sides together, top and bottom. And after I had that put together, I put on the back piece of plywood. And then I installed the shelf by drilling, pre-drilling holes for the shelf things, and for it to be adjustable. Then I put the hinges. This was the first time I ever worked with hinges like these, and it was really hard for me to figure out how they work, but I managed. I put them on the doors and finally put the doors on and put a nice coat of polyurethane on the cabinet. And yeah, the challenges I faced was I started pretty late. I started 2 weeks before the project was due, and I'm a person that doesn't really like to be under pressure, so I tried to finish it, and I didn't want to go past the due date. And on the same week that I started, quite a bit of snow fell out, and we were out from school for like 2 or 3 days, and all my material, all the tools were in our wood shop class here at school, so I couldn't do anything about it. I was like a sitting duck. Both trade school and college are good, but these past couple of years, both students and parents are picking college over trade school. And I personally believe that that is not the right choice. Would you ever trust someone to build something for you if they did not know how to do it and they never did something like that before? I personally wouldn't. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions? Yes.
So you want to become a carpenter. Have you given any thought to whether you want to be like a rough carpenter, you know, that like builds the framing of the houses, or would you rather be an interior trim carpenter, or do you want to do something like build cabinets and furniture?
I would like to be an interior finish carpenter, just because I prefer to work in when it's nice and cold in the summer, and or warm during the winter. Think smart, not hard.
Yeah.
Well, why do you feel your age group is, the number is so low in these fields?
I'm not sure, but probably because they're out either in college or they just don't know what to do with their life at that age, so.
I know you mentioned saving a lot of money going to trade school versus college. What about after trade school or college? Is there a comparison of income for trade school versus income compared to a college degree?
Matters what you go into, because like some people that even go to college, they don't use what they've learned from college. Well, that's in some cases, but and others, it just depends on what you go into. So.
You said that you would like to help other schools that don't have woodshop programs to do that. how would you,
No, encourage them to get a wood shop like we do.
how would you go about that?
I don't know. Just
I think it's a wonderful idea.
because we need more people in the construction field today. There's like not many that want to do jobs like us. So. Yes.
Are you going to trade school?
Well, I think that I'm well taught enough. So,
Straight to work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I've been to Votech for 2 years, so
Mm-hmm.
I've learned a lot in there. So, I personally believe that I can go and get a lot more information, like in plumbing and in other parts, but I personally believe that I have enough information with finish work. And my dad is a Finnish carpenter, so like my entire life I grew up helping him around and stuff, so he was like my teacher. Any more questions?
Are you in Marianne all night? Yeah, I'm headed down to 101 now.
I finished in 105, but you guys swing by the classroom for a minute or like,
Oh,
talk to you guys a little
yeah.
bit.
I'd love to talk to you.
Neither really want to talk to you. Yes.
I didn't have a hold of it.
I got to briefly visit with her as I was sparkling down
So
my
she's
ear.
not
Okay. She's put a bug in my ear. I was, yeah.
She doesn't waste any time.
Well, I'm proud of you. You did.
Thanks. I was a little stressed out on this. Yeah, I was really stressed out.
Yeah, so this is me. Yeah.
I'm glad you're here.
Yes.
Because I had asked about you and they had said that, you have a sick kid and they didn't know if you'd be back. and-
Well, I certainly didn't want to miss it, so
All right,
obviously.
good.
It was, like I said, you can really see just how many.
Do that.
Not hard, just like that. They work where you just sit. Hey, there's a lot of storms and heat. Get the heat. Great. I know, I mean, it's gonna rain hot lava.
Where's our next girl at? I guess we got a few more minutes.
Yeah. It's a big dragon head, so we'll know when she's here. I think dragons are cool, so I was interested in seeing what this is about. Yeah. I read her overview, so she made a jewelry box dragon.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. Cool. I don't have an artistic bone in my body, so this would have been like.
The, what do they call it, potluck theater
Yes.
that they had? she was one of the main characters in that. She was amazing. She looked like she belonged on stage. Waiting to see this dragon.
Farther.
I'm gonna put the table on the other end. Right there. I would put the table on wherever you're standing here and both of these items are there.
I was gonna talk
Whatever you think. It's your thing.
That's upside down.
Here we go.
We're gonna pull this up, we're gonna pull this off. That's it, just put it under your table. Okay. Bye.
If I stay, all I do is awkward with sibling random. I'm just cheering.
I say my name, Gisela Kipulu. How is it? Gisela Kipulu.
Kapoo.
Mine says Kapulu, I say Kipulu. Kipulu. And I'm right because my mom said I'm right. Kipulu. Yeah, Maya's like, no, it's Kapulu. And I'm like, I got digits.
You get to pick how you say your name.
For sure. I got digits. Where is the clicker?
Pardon?
The clicker.
It's right here.
Gotta make sure it's not funky.
Yeah, and she.
This is good. This is good. This is good.
Are my judges ready? My name is Gisela, and as a little kid, I had always enjoyed jewelry and jewelry things. Like gold, silver, platinum, anything that sparkled and glimmered, I wanted it. Now, when I grew a little older, around 9 to 10, I had decided, well, I'm gonna get a bunch of jewelry and I'm gonna keep it and I'm gonna look fabulous while doing so. Well, it turns out it's not that easy. I got a bunch of jewelry all together and then it was gone the next day. Don't know where, it just disappeared. So then I tried again. I got some jewelry and it got all tangled up. And I didn't know how it got like that because just a minute ago, it was perfectly fine. I ended up repeating this multiple times until I learned I needed something to put it in before I lose any more jewelry. So I decided when I was older, I was going to make my own box. And that devolved into something that was like, well, I wonder what kind of box I will make. And maybe it can be fantasy themed. Maybe it can be something that not just a box, but also is aesthetically pleasing. And the first thing that popped into my head was dragons. Now, why would I think dragons? Why would I think that in the first place? And it got me thinking, why would other people think of that if they were to be in my shoes? And the question would be, what makes dragons so appealing? I had to go into a lot of research to figure this out. So I started off by doing something simple. I started off by asking the question, are they real or fake? And the shocking answer is that it's both. Both of them are real and fake. This is because animals, way back when, were called dragons. And this was because of their larger than size nature and their bigger attitudes. And as it was telephoned, these creatures would eventually evolve into what we now call a dragon. Some of these animals would be snakes, giant snakes and pythons, stuff like that, as well as dinosaurs, which is surprising, I know. Nobody ever thinks of a dinosaur because they're all dead, but it's true. People had assumed that this is where perhaps dragons had formed and became what it is today, what we know as today. When going through, and as I've mentioned before, the telephoning effect, it happened because of many different areas having different colloquialisms and different stereotypes of what a dragon is. Now, they can be similar or they can be different. Many different appearances can be seen as in the US dragon or the European dragon, where they're greedy and more angry and they only want what they want, as in the evil type of stereotype of a dragon. Now, in other places, such as China and Japan, they have dragons that are more familiar with the happier kind of mellow tone that you would see in kind of like kids' movies you see there, or you see the stereotypes where the wise dragon flies over and gives knowledge to someone else. That is more of the feeling that you get when you go in Japan or China for the dragons. Not to mention the fact there are two different stereotypes when you're talking to two different sets of people, such as businessmen think it's more sneaky and cunning, as the royalty believed that it was more royal and more majestic, a majestic creature in that sense of form, because they wore it on garbs and robes and such as that. In Egypt, there were more of a godly status of dragons that were in there. The European dragons are much different than the Egyptian dragons for the fact that it was seen as more godly, more above it all. because one of the gods that were in the form of a dragon was the god of fertility in Egypt. In more obscure places, there were dragons in Africa and Australia, such as the Draco. That's how they called it in Australia. And in Africa, there were dragons such as dragons that protected a hoard of treasure or protected a river of treasure in that time. This is the dragon that I created, and I wanted to tell you about it more for the fact of the materials that I used. So the materials that I used was the yarn that you see that makes up the fur. I had to brush it myself and make it into wafts, which is little sections each time, which took forever. And I had to place them around, and at first I started to sew them because that's the only way I could figure out how to get it onto the fabric without it crimpling or messing up. And then my sister was like, "Doi just used hot glue." And I was like, why didn't I think of that? So I ended up using hot glue to create the rest of the round outer part. I used wood, I used Mod Podge, which is a sealant that will seal the color that I put on previously, and the colors were Dragonfly, which is a translucent kind of paint that I used, and a gold. The steps to create the dragon itself from the wood was a much different process than, say, the fur, because it was starting up from the base down. So I had to make the skeleton structure first. And it ended up so that the front and the back, I used two different techniques in that I hollowed out the front of the neck right here. So it's a hollowed out inside circle. As you can kind of see from here, I left it there so you could kind of see it. And then the tail right here is where I decided to keep it whole to see which one I preferred better. And if I were to do this again, I would just go fully hollowed out because it centers more right and it balances better. I set standards for myself so that if I could do this again, I would be able to do it better. I would be able to make the thing that I wanted to. In that with these standards, I would keep and continue for a while. Some of the problems that I faced were that with the tools, I have never used those tools before. I have never done woodworking. I have never used any sort of wood. I have never been in a wood class before, so I decided to take two. I ended up with much more experience than I had before, but I had zero experience at the time. And it just became much harder for the fact that I had never worked on anything like that before. So I decided that by trying to solve this problem, I would make something beforehand, which took a lot longer than expected, but I still ended up finishing the product that I have here today. I also had a problem with wanting it perfect. I wanted it to look good, I wanted it to be good, obviously, and I wanted others to think it looked really good. So I ended up setting even higher standards for myself than I had originally set, and I had to stop and think to myself, well, it's not going to get done if I set such high standards for myself like I see others create when I'm just a beginner and I just started out. So when I thought about that, I had realized that just like a dragon, I was kind of greedy myself in wanting it to be perfect and wanting to have my own jewelry box just like this. And now I can put all of the jewelry I ever want into that giant box that's heavy and do as I please with it. I had always wished for it, and I can now say for myself that I had created a box that I wanted. Do my judges have any questions?
I do.
Yes?
So, Which version of the dragon do you prefer? The Egyptian version, the China version, or?
So there were many types that I looked through, and there's some that I didn't mention before, such as there was a dragon that had fur like this, except it was a purplish tint, and surprisingly, it had porcupine spikes on it as well, which I thought was very interesting, and I kind of liked that one. But my most favorite one is probably the Chinese dragon, because of the way it symbolizes royalty, and it's kind of shifty and it kind of goes both ways.
Did you like wood class?
Yes, I did. I'm making a cat house right now.
Yeah. Will you continue taking classes like that in the future if you have the chance?
If I have the chance, oh heck yeah, I would.
How long did it take you to build the box, start to finish?
Almost the whole semester.
Almost the whole semester?
Not including the practice that I did. That took a lot longer than I thought it would.
It's quite an investment.
Yes, Ms. Beck?
Oh, I was gonna ask that, how long it took.
A really long time. So long I grew a beard and then I had to shave it off.
It is big. Do you have a place in your house to keep it and put all your jewelry in it?
I'm going to make a place.
Okay.
And do you have jewelry for it?
I'm going to get jewelry. I told you it all disappeared when I went away. The goblins took it. That's a whole different story for another time, though.
You're great.
That's really
Do you want help carrying it out?
Yes, I do. Its butt is fat.
You have a great teacher's voice. Doesn't she have a great
She
teacher's
does.
voice?
Yes, she does. That's why she's one of my
You need to teach elementary.
Do you want me to get this thing?
Yeah.
Here's all
There it goes.
Oh, you love
Okay, you're gonna hold the top.
Okay.
You're gonna let
Okay.
Maggie in the middle.
Can I open
Get the middle. I'm gonna get the butt. You're gonna get the head.
Can I open the door?
Put it up. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's like, yeah, I did it out. I was like, oh my gosh.
Bro, your video was not working.
Her live stream? Yeah, her live stream was like, it wasn't working till like the part where she's like, and my sister.
No, you weren't supposed to hear that. I thought you said you wouldn't watch.
I wasn't. I was looking for mom.
Okay, here,
Mom was
hold
trying to
this.
watch it.
I was gonna see you later.
I'm
Great job.
Thank you.
I don't care. I was like,
She's fast or too many flavors. You must know you had filler right there. You went fast. You did.
Right. I'm constantly changing.
Oh, you did.
She go home to relax. We were eating marijuana. It's a good way to celebrate.
So I stopped and gave her a hug, and she just vibes over.
Yes. She's skipping school tomorrow.
She already skipped on Monday. Because my family was in.
Right, we just needed to chill.
Yeah.
Did they leave yesterday?
But because I see her and I were
Right.
station twice last week.
See you. Me too. I saw Brandon and Lex walking in, but I was waiting in the parking lot for Matt Owens to pick up some stuff, so I didn't holler at him.
She
Did you find like all night long or? I took a dinner break in there somewhere. Oh.
Oh, mine doesn't start till 8.
Friday, Saturday, and one Sunday. Got your text message. Kathy is having her first birthday party at the same time as her 3 o'clock show Saturday, so I'm gonna drop her off. She's gonna get some flowers that need to go to the party and miss her actual show, and come back for the second one. Sam is coming today, so he'll keep her company. She'll have someone in the audience. She sent somebody there every time. I think David and Marcia are coming tomorrow. It's here tomorrow. It's just a busy time of year. Someone else's party or,
I started to put the dinner on.
Probably put Ashland.
There you go.
That's what I think we'll go to Ashland. I don't think we're RSVP'd, I probably do that.
You can come on in. Yeah, you can get ready. Whenever you start, or whenever you present.
shower twice last night. And then it was in my dream. Are my judges ready? So as you see, this is considered a sport. This is a sport. And this is a sport. But to most people, this is not a sport. Hello, my name is Rebecca Green, and today I wanted to talk about how sports can be have major benefits on a young person's life. Some of the major benefits are that it's a way for sports help kids cope with certain things that are going on in their lives that they may not be able to do at home or at school. Also, sports help build new friendships that you may have never thought would happen and help you bond with people while in school but also outside of school as well. Sports also help with, like if you're feeling sad, they can help you like feel better and want to be more involved in things. And most importantly, sports help improve your physical and mental health. With that, the mental side of sports can help decrease stress, depression, anxiety, any sorts of things like that. And adults may experience this, but children experience it too, and it sometimes can be even more than adults do, and people may not know that. And with being in a sport, it also, for me, it has helped me understand and how to combat these feelings that I've had about certain things that I couldn't communicate with someone outside of school, or just feel overwhelmed by everything that's going on in school. They can also teach you some very important life skills, including teamwork, where you, in the outside world, you may, if being outside of not in a sport, you can experience having teamwork with people, but sports can also help with that if you aren't very skilled in that. Also, it helps you be able to control certain situations that are going on. Like when you are in class and somebody is just complaining about everything, saying, oh, it's not going right. Sports also show you that, hey, I can help that person be able to feel more positive about their work. Sports have caused me to have many leadership abilities and to stand up for things that if I need help with something, I can get help through anyone, and also encourage others, like help them or find help for them. The other side of sports would be the physical side, which is just as equal as the mental side benefits. And some of those may be that sports aren't, like exercise and sports aren't just about the looks that you get, like being fit or healthier looking. It also can improve your heart and maintain a healthier lifestyle. Sports are a good way of exercise, and when you're younger, like many adults, they tend to just walk around or something, and it's easier for them. Many teens have been more lazier by playing video games and sitting in class and not getting that physical exercise that they need. And sports have helped encourage you to get up and stay active in certain amounts of times, which can lead to helping you in your earlier or later life and keep your lifestyle healthier. reason why I did my product was because it was a fun opportunity that has been put on hold because of COVID, and it was not only a learning experience for the middle school cheerleaders, but also for me, because I've never coached anything, and I didn't know how to respond to the girls when they wouldn't listen, and it was a different point of view, because coaching is kind of hard. So for my product, I did two things. First, I made a t-shirt. I picked a sublimation design for the shirt, which took about 2 weeks trying to figure out which design from 3 different designs, and this is the one I chose. And then I bleach dyed the shirts up into the day. It was like December 13th was the first practice, and while they were having practices, when the practice would end, I would go home and start bleaching lots of shirts for middle school and high school girls and boy, male cheerleader. And I also did I bought the 3 practices. In this picture you can tell we were just goofing off. We were trying to figure a lineup, but the girls worked really hard, and you could tell by their trying to remember and learn the dance that they really, really enjoyed it. And on the night of this was the night of the dance, somebody in the crowd had took our picture. Have no clue who did it, but in here you can't really tell, but on my phone you can tell that almost everyone was smiling. They were really just showed that they were enjoying the night, and the middle school girls have came up to me saying that they were going to try out for the high school team, and just because of my dance. Some of my challenges were that I have never coached anything. I'm young, but it has showed me that coaches do a lot more than what students are realizing by just yelling at you and telling you what you're doing wrong. They are trying to make you look better, like out on the field or the sidelines or the court. They're just trying to make you better and enjoy the sport or activity that you are doing. Also, another thing was, so I was in middle school, I was quiet and shy, and I understood that some of the girls would be that way, and I just didn't know how many of the girls would be wouldn't speak up or listen or pay attention. All they wanted to talk about was boys and drama that was going on in the middle school, and that made it harder on me because I'm the type of person, I don't get mad very easily, but sometimes they would take me off a little, wouldn't listen or just goof around when they're supposed to be paying attention. And one of the most scariest things, I guess I would say, is while I was bleaching these shirts, some of the bleach was too close to the sublimation that I was taking my fingers with gloves and not realizing that the bleach was going through the gloves, and it had burnt fingertips, fingerprints off. And so the whole Christmas break, I had burnt fingerprints, and there was little cuts on my hands. So every time I did my chores, like washing dishes or picking something up off the floor, I would literally cry in pain because it hurt. And I had my mom, thank goodness I had my mom and a friend come and help me make these up until the night of the dance. They were actually in the dryer a few minutes while I was getting ready for me to go to the game. And in conclusion, being a part of a team is fun and all, but it's also sports are a part of my life that has helped me realize that sports are not just about being a team, but also helping you improve your physical and mental health and having a healthier lifestyle. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions? And it's 2 slides. Yes.
It looks like you had a really good turnout. Did you have any trouble promoting your cheer clinic?
Well, I made flyers. I don't have the flyer with me, but I sent them out to like the middle school, and the girls, some of them read it, but like when I gave them one, it had the wrong dates. I had to switch dates. So then I had to also text some of the middle schoolers that I already had on social media or something and let them know. And especially the coach, she was a really big help. She helped the girls by sending, like, I think it was a remind out to them, letting them know, and then to some of the parents as well. So, yeah. And I also gave the girls my phone number and my school email for any time that they needed to talk about anything or about the dance, like what to wear or what time to be there. I got a lot of what time to be there over and over again, especially from the same person. And really it was just simple things like that. Besides time-wise, it was hard.
Would you ever want to be a coach now?
I do appreciate coaches for everything that they do, but I don't think I would see myself being a coach. I mean, probably, yeah, if it comes down to it, but probably not. I do enjoy kids, but sometimes it can get a little out of hand.
I have a cheerleader that cheers with you, and she thinks you're pretty great. So thank you for being so positive. With her being a good role model for her too. So
I get that a lot, especially with my youth pastor actually says that I can kill people with my smile and encouragement.
That's a great attribute to
and I
have.
was like, that's really good to know.
Yes, yes.
You did
great.
Oh, the secret. How do we do this? What's up? This is on email.
He puts the app down there.
App?
Then-
Gotcha.
And then it's not really weird.
Okay.
Over on the right. Does it show senior balance?
Yeesh. Yep.
Got it.
Look at you go, girl.
Yeah, about 40 minutes ago. See the keys?
Are my judges ready? Think back to the last place you had visited when on vacation. What was it that was so memorable? Was it the amazing scenery, the fresh breeze hitting against your face, the salty scent of the ocean, or the delicious local food options? Or was it when times didn't go as planned and it was just those, I know it's sour, but it was just those memories that you created with your family and friends that made it all worth it? Traveling allows you to see the world through a different lens. It renews your soul and it just makes life more richer and fulfilling. Hi, my name is Danika Nelson and my senior project is making my travel itinerary as if I'm a travel agent. So before I begin, I want to give you guys a little bit of a backstory of mine so you guys get to know me a bit and how I was led into wanting to be a travel agent. So first off, I love traveling. I've been traveling for a while now. About the age of 2 years old, I went on my first plane ride, and ever since then, I've been traveling. I've been to about 10 states or more so far, so I'm usually on the move. Whenever I was asked about what job interests me or what I want to be when I grow up, I usually answered that I would love to work for a job that involves traveling, but only here and there because I would like to eventually settle down one place. One thing that I heard about travel agents that's pretty neat is that whenever they do decide to travel, they do give discounts. So yeah, I thought that was a pretty cool fact. It is always the responsibility of travel agents to make sure that their clients are informed of any possible dangers. So whenever I did my research paper, I had done terrorism in Africa. And when you're traveling, you always want to be aware of your surroundings. So I did some research on information in Africa. And my findings were that the most tragic scenarios that happen often are terrorism. When you're just simply traveling to a place that you are interested in, you might not know too much information about that state or country. So I looked at it like this could be a good page for my itinerary. Some of the informational facts that I put in my travel itinerary are follow the reporting the country and region. Look out for anything suspicious, and if you do, report to the local police department immediately, and then avoid any routines that make you an easier target, and vary the times and route of your regular journeys. So whenever I started creating my travel itinerary, I had created the pages on a desktop publishing app. I use this app to make my pages more professionally and had a settled theme to the pages. Whenever I started my plane tickets, I created it on a cheapo air app. I had actually used one of these apps on one of my recent vacations up to Alaska. So what this app does is whenever you put in the month and the day of the month and the day that you were interested in going, it switches the days of it to kind of make it a cheaper price, and I've done that because I wanted to keep my travel itinerary as cheap as possible to keep a low budget. My next step into my travel itinerary was to look up hotels, like high quality and 5-star hotels. So I did some research on some of the hotels in Egypt, Africa, and I found one that I thought was a pretty decent fit. So here's just the apps, the lifters. The next pages into my travel itinerary are the money exchange and the car rentals. I did separate pages, and the money exchange I just put down locations, and the car rentals I had put down locations where they could get that as well. Besides doing one page after those steps into it, usually an itinerary has just one page of simple activities they can go do, or restaurants options as well. I decided to make more of a challenge and do a day-to-day itinerary. So the first 2 days of my itinerary I had made arrangements for an activity. I put in the address for them and also the times, like how far the activity is from the hotel so they can make it to the next destination, to the restaurant on time. And then the third day, I only had scheduled them a activity also including with all the addresses and how far it is from the hotel. But I didn't schedule them in a restaurant. It was kind of like their own, you know, do what you like after the activity. The fourth day was their own journey. I just didn't put any activities or restaurants down, just some simple suggestions of local areas around the hotel. So the next slides are gonna show me creating my itinerary. You can see I was doing research right there, and the finished product, printing some, and me actually putting it together. The next slides are gonna actually show my itinerary. If you guys want, I can pass it around since you can't really see it on here. If you guys would like, I don't know, do you guys wanna look at it? To kind of like follow up what I'm doing. Okay. Anyways, this is my cover page, and those are my plane tickets. I had also put some notes on the side, like informational notes that they need when arriving to the airport as well. And then the day-to-day itineraries. You can see where I put the activities down and where they're going, like how far it is, and also the addresses, and then the dinner option as well on all of them. And then the money exchange and the car rentals. And with my research paper, well, the research I've done, there's some of the notes that I put down so they can be, you know, be aware of their surroundings. What I learned from my senior project was a lot of researching, planning, and organizing. When doing a travel itinerary, you got to do a lot of those things. So I had to plan out all the days that they were going, plan out where they were going, organize them to, you know, give it, make sure it's well, and researching all the right places. Money exchange, I never had to do or deal with anything about money exchange. Never really heard of it, but not, you know, got too involved with it. So I had to look into money exchange a little bit more. So that was definitely a lesson learned. And when it comes to my challenges regarding my senior project, was a lot of correcting mistakes. What I did was I kept on messing up addresses somehow, like mixing up the addresses, putting them on the wrong location, and also just mixing up the schedules of when they're leaving and when they are returning. I somehow mixed up the days and did a whole completely different set, so I had to restart all over again. Not quite restart, but that took some time. And scheduling. So whenever you are traveling to a place that you want to visit, you tend to get jet lag. So I had to like kind of work around good timings to schedule them so they can have, you know, time to rest in between also. So my travel itinerary was very beneficial to me. It taught me a lot of things involving with planning and organizing and all the beginning steps into being a travel agent. All my research and my creation of my travel itinerary was very fun and challenging and very beneficial. Thank you. Do my judges have any questions?
Yeah. What's this gonna cost? Right, that's the first thing I'm thinking. I can't go to Pomona right now. So what would it, this is for 2 people I saw. What was the cost involved?
The cost of the plane tickets?
Just the trip.
The trip in total, I would say, is about, with what I had arranged them with and the prices of those, not including restaurants, just because you don't ever know how much. But with the things that I did add up, I would say it's about $38,000 with all the money exchange, because they do charge you for money exchange, but then give you what you pay for of the money exchange, yeah.
What does a travel agent make?
Travel, well, pretty much what I'm kind of doing right now, I'm scheduling them, like where they're going, making sure I get their plane tickets for them, making sure I have all their needs, so.
So, but what's a typical pay?
Typical pay for a travel agent?
Yeah.
Just how depending on how they do work it.
So the more expensive the trip, the more you'll get paid and.
Well, yeah, essentially, but
Okay.
you have to make sure you do it good enough for them so they will pay you extra kind of thing. It's just depending on how the travel agent makes their itinerary for their clients, so. Anyone else?
Is this something you're interested in?
Yeah, definitely interested in, not quite leaning towards it so much, but interested in it.